I'm kind of an amateur like Skywarn spotter, and so I've been that's one of my little things that I do in the spring, and I've been watching it all day, and it's been pretty bad down there.
Oh yeah, I bet. Bet. All right, it looks like we are live. Fantastic. All right, let's get a 2 up going. Hey, hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, what's up?
How's it going?
It's pretty good. Let's see here. I'm getting the stream link for everybody. Checking the other computer over here. Yeah, so Seth is not going to be here tonight. Seth is doing a stream all his own today. He's doing a live event. He's setting up the stream, I think, for some kind of performance for UMI.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yo,
What's going on?
back.
Nice.
What are we getting into today?
I don't know. Well, this is Q&A, so it's whatever. You can't push to talk. Hermano Scano, your interface isn't compatible with Discord. Oh no. You don't have to push to talk. You can just, as long as you're not in a loud place, just I'll let you know if it's too
No,
much.
I'm pretty sure that the settings in this Discord channel kind of force you to do push to talk, unfortunately.
Oh, that's right. We do have it set up that way. Oh, bummer. Yeah, you get the muting effect. Okay, let me see something really fast. Let's see here. Okay, everybody should be able to unmute, but it's not. Yeah. Yeah, regardless of being pushed to talk or not. Yeah, so it's the channel settings. We have it set up that way. Oh, I'm sorry, Hermanoscano. That is unfortunate.
You can still type your questions, Hermana.
Totally. You could definitely still submit the questions. Getting this link, so I have to navigate multiple screens over here.
Yo, I had a question that wasn't answered
Okay,
in
what's your question?
track reference repository. It's I don't know if y'all are allowed to stream music, but if y'all wanted to take a second to listen to that song, there's like a small transient in like of the kick in that track.
Yeah.
And I just wanted everyone's like thought process. Like I can't even hear it, like in mono. Or I mean in stereo.
You say
It's
that
like
Do you
there's
have
a
a
small
link?
transient. Yeah, there's a link in Chattown chat.
Is there a
Or it's
link
a
that's
reference
not
track.
title by any chance? Do you have a YouTube link?
Let me get that for y'all real fast. Hold on.
Okay, and I'm posting the link here. Let's see here.
And I second what Hermano said. I think that's a good idea to review the stereo unlink compressors and approach gloop compressors.
Okay. All right, let's can somebody click on that link and tell me if that link is going to work? Should be all good.
It works.
Fantastic. See here, I've also got a YouTube link. Let me go ahead and here on YouTube. Make sure that's the right link. There we go. Hermano Scano, you said you want to review the stereo unlinked glue. Seems like Seth uses this a lot on stereo unlinked compressors. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll talk about stereo unlinked. It's a really clever design, especially in like really heavily stereoed music. Depending on the type of content you have, it can really shift the stereo image around, or also kind of increase the width just a little bit by allowing it to move a little more freely. There we go. So there's a couple links. I'm gonna pin those. There we go.
Which one do you think has less latency?
I don't know. Click on both and find out. I really don't know.
Okay,
Probably
I'll do that.
maybe Vimeo. Not 100% sure, but I would suspect Vimeo. That's my guess. So you want to take a look at stereo unlinked compressors. Let us do that. I'm going to switch here to the 1UP real quick while I switch over here to Ableton. And let's go into that. So, can everybody see the screen? Everybody got me?
Yeah, it's working.
Awesome. Okie dokie. Make sure that that's all good. All right, cool. Fantastic. So let's go for stereo unlinked sort of stuff. Let me find a good example kind of beat or something. Actually, there's a good beat that I have here just for this kind of demonstration. I think it was a producer's choice drum loop I used recently. It is see here, I believe it's going to be.
Now, for us to watch the stream, should we just have the Vimeo
wait.
up? Or
No. Actually, I'm sorry. Forgive me. I can also share here in Discord.
FYI, I think that the YouTube is much less latency than the Vimeo.
Oh, there you go.
Reduce latency by interacting with Discord.
So let me know if there are any problems hearing that. Did anybody hear that, by the way? Did everybody hear that? Oh, well, I need.
Do we have an audio movers?
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I
Yeah.
need. The audio routing is so intricate usually. Let's see here. Chat Town Q&A. It's always a challenge to kind of figure out exactly what needs to happen here. Oh, whoops. There you go. All right. Drop this up here. There we go. Pin that. There we go. Everybody should have a high def link now.
Remember, Safari's weird, so use another browser.
Yeah, everybody needs to use something other than Safari. Safari is not the best anyway. Neither is Internet Explorer. So, all right. So Hermano Scano, let's talk about these stereo unlinked compressors. So yeah, more or less, they're just like, okay, this all came about because Ableton is actually mono-summing the sidechain input. So the listening circuit, the actual detector circuit in the, oh, my bad, let me adjust that. There we go, that's better. The actual listening circuit inside of Ableton, or inside of the actual compressor, is mono-summing. So it collapses whatever you're feeding into the compressor into mono before analyzing the envelope of the sound, and it applies compression based off of a mono input. So that's why the stereo unlinked was even a thing to begin with. So that's kind of where they came from. So we have a couple in here. So here's my stereo unlinked Live 10 comp, which essentially just creates an artificial sidechain and then, you know, separates that into left and right, and then allows you to use that to feed two independent compressors with the controls that are mapped back. So it's not a whole lot. It's not a whole lot to set up. It's really pretty simple. But essentially, you just you can do this in a lot of different ways. You don't have to use Ableton to do this. You can do this in a lot of different DAWs. You have to kind of an intricate use of routing to create a sidechain, have it set up in split stereo, so you've got, you know, an independent left and an independent right, and then feed a entirely dedicated left compressor and a right compressor if the compressor you're using doesn't have a left-right mode, like Ableton's doesn't. So, yeah. So essentially, it's just a way to get your unlink to, or your side chain, like the actual listening circuit, unlinked. So the effect is this. So if we take a listen here. And I start adding compression. Aside from the obvious of changing the actual, level of the thing, it's actually slightly narrowing it. Because if you think about this, it kind of makes sense. Because if the compressor is only responding to a mono signal, it doesn't matter whether it's the left that gets loud or the right that gets loud. The compressor is going to reduce the level anyway. So it's responding more frequently in that regard. And so it kind of, you know, this has some practical use. If you are in the recording world, you're messing with like double tracked guitars or something like that, you can actually benefit from this kind of a thing, because if you're double tracking guitars, you get a really wide sound, and if you are compressing those together, by having a compressor with a monoed sidechain signal, that can kind of control that stereo image a little bit better. Whereas if you had totally independent left and right compressors, if, you know, the left side got loud and squished down and the right side didn't, then the entire stereo image is going to kind of shift. So that is why this whole thing kind of came to be. So here in this example, in fact, I might be able to give us a very slight view of it here. If I go to here. Let's use iZotope Insight for this. So let's grab a vector scope here. And so let's go before. Cool, and I'm gonna start compressing it. And apply some makeup gain. All right, and so it's just a little squished in the stereo image. So I can turn up my unlinking, and then that will, it just opens back up a little bit. If I turn up the unlinking all the way, you can look at the compressor here, and you can actually see what's feeding it. If I have this on, but turn it down so we can still talk and hear each other clearly. But like, you see, like, what's feeding the sidechain is actually only the left information here, even though the stereo information is being affected. And then after the fact, it's kind of weird to think about, but the way Ableton is routing things is like, audio comes in from left, goes through this sidechain, gets split hard left and hard right, so they're isolated. These compressors listen to this sidechain channel, and then only respond to whatever, you know, of course, whatever they're listening to. So left responds to left, right responds to right, and then after that, this is panning the output of those compressors to their respective sides. So that's a little bit how it works. I mean, yeah, actually, the settings are the same on each side. They're not different. They are the same. I have them linked together. You can have them independent. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that can be beneficial, especially if the content is really dramatically different between left and right. I choose to have them identical, but some plugins even have the ability to kind of isolate left versus right. I know certain Waves plugins do. So yeah, and actually I know FabFilter also has, let's see here, the ability to do that as well. So if got our compressor here, let me turn this back up. By the way, whenever I have this at full volume, is it too loud for anybody? Is it masking my voice at all?
You want to
play the
test that?
Yeah, I'll play the beat and I'll just keep talking. How's the level? Is it too loud? Not loud enough?
I mean, I feel like I can hear you just fine.
Okay, great. So, Hermano Scano, the audio movers link doesn't work for you. I would try refreshing or using a different web browser. Is it working for everybody else?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so I would try refreshing and seeing if that changes anything. So here in the FabFilter, I can still squish it, get the tone that I want, and then over here, let's see here. Trying to remember where it is in the FabFilter. I don't do the unlinking very often in the FabFilter. I know they have it though. Input pan, input level.
The stereo unlink is in the sidechain.
Ah, gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, down there. And that makes sense because that's the detector circuit. So, yeah, that is sidechain level stereo link right there. So you can have completely independent responses, but overall, you're still going to be affecting, like setting these compressor to respond, with the same settings on each side. You can force an entirely like independent one if you just want to use a rack, or if you're not in Ableton, you can just duplicate the signal to a different channel and put an independent compressor on each, panning one hard left, one hard right. That can work. Pan the input rather, not the output. So
I have a quick question.
what's up?
What is the value of using the stereo unlinked Ableton compressor as opposed to using like if we had FabFilter Pro C2, right? Using that with like the stereo completely unlinked, wouldn't in theory that be the same if you use like the clean mode or whatever? I mean, obviously the math is going to be a little bit different, but yeah, just curious what the thought process is there.
That is the difference. The math is going to be different. The kind of control you have is a little different, and overall, just the general sound is going to be a little different. And it's a matter of convenience too. The whole thing, just like using a third-party plugin in the first place. If you ignored that one was, if you ignored the stereo linked versus unlinked version, like that option, just ignore that entire concept and just think like, why would you want to use Ableton's compressor over FabFilter if you have FabFilter? It's kind of the same argument to me. It's like, one's Ableton, one's a little, it's more tidy. You've got it. It's native to the program. It's going to respond really quickly. All the same benefits that you would have of just using the plugin regularly, and then all the benefits that you would have of using a third-party version. And with the added benefit, like if you're in FabFilter, you've got the added benefit of having the ability to EQ the sidechain in the plugin, not just filter it, but I mean like full on EQ, which is something that I don't believe you have the ability to do at all very well in Ableton. I mean, you can filter it and you can EQ it a little bit, but it's not a parametric EQ like this. So there are some benefits, and obviously you've got more algorithms here. Very different response times, things like that. So overall, it's all the same benefits of just the regular stuff. Like why you might want to use one over the other anyway, I think.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I think we covered this in another Q&A before we
Okay.
opened it up. But if someone like is just watching these videos, and they're saying, "Wow, they're talking about a lot of VSTs," I would want it broken down to me. If you would recommend 5 VSTs that aren't in Ableton or whatever DAW, like after watching the approach,
Yeah,
what would you tell them to point at?
great question. And that's a big topic, right? Like there's so many you could recommend. There are it's like, do you go for mixing plugins? Do you go for analysis plugins or compressors, limiters? And I think some of the ones that I would recommend the most are definitely the FabFilter plugins. Like hands down, they are amazing. There's a lot of reasons why.
Facts.
Yeah, FabFilter is the bomb. So also, I will say the iZotope stuff is also super good. It's all the stuff that you see us use regularly. That's the stuff I would recommend. Having said that,
Soothe.
yeah, Soothe is really great. There's literally no other plugin that can do what Soothe does in the way Soothe does it. So, all those plugins that I honestly am one of those people that will actively try to avoid a third-party plugin if I can get away with doing so. Having said that, like, with Soothe and with the FabFilter stuff and the iZotope stuff, it's like there's just no other plugins that do that exact thing. And it's the reason that Waves is still around. Like they do have a unique sound to them. So like, I would say FabFilter for sure, iZotope for sure, and I'm a big fan of analysis plugins like Voxingo Span for sure. That can tell you a whole lot. Like iZotope Insight, definitely. And let me jump back over to take a look real quick.
If you were gonna spring for the Leapwing stuff, I would
Yeah.
definitely recommend the Center 1 and Stage 1 specifically. Those two
Yeah.
are definitely insane.
Yeah, they're really, really great. I mean, the Stage 1's mono spread is unlike anything out there at the moment. Their coding is always really clean, and they have the ability to do some pretty amazing detail work that you can't really do with other plugins. Also, the newfangled stuff, if you're getting into mastering or any kind of production where you need some pretty high-end limiting, there's nothing that really beats the newfangled stuff right now for me. And I like this whole paragraphic thing right here is just the best. And you saw Seth use it on Tuesday. It's huge. And if you're watching this in the after the fact, if you don't know what I'm talking about, we do a broadcast every Tuesday live for the class, and people, we watch Seth work, and he uses the crap out of this thing, and it's great. Come get into the live class. So yeah, this is a great plugin. I love this thing a lot. Ozone. These are the plugins like this. Let me get to where you can see this a little better. These are the plugins that I use more than anything. What I use more than almost any other, as far as third party goes. And this is just kind of what I have installed on this computer as well. These are kind of what Seth and I rely on most. There are several other ones. Like if I go here, I have several other plugins. But the Native Instrument stuff is really good for creativity. Kilohearts makes some great plugins. There's always like little quirky plugins that I like too. I just got this one actually a few minutes ago. Like literally right before the stream, I got this EQ Curve Analyzer. It's a really interesting. I have to turn the volume down so it doesn't pop, but it's a really interesting plugin. It's not very expensive. I'm pretty sure that you could get it for free, but you just load two of them, one on either side of a plugin you want to test. And so like let's test here. Let me get rid of some of these. Like the Stage 1 here, we can test what it does to the frequency and the phase of a signal. So we can we can literally see like turning up the mono spread does this to the frequency response of the mono signal. It's it's taking the left, taking the right, doing this spread, this kind of pull apart.
Can you do that same thing with the depth, please?
Yeah. So like, let's turn that back down. Let's go here for the depth.
So it's like in the DAW plugin doctor then?
Exactly. It's an in the DAW plugin doctor. It's really cool. I just found it. It's called the Bertom EQ Curve Analyzer, and I definitely am liking it so far. Like especially because you can do things like test Ableton's native plugins. If I can find them in this shortened menu here. There we go. Oh, come on. Wait a second. Where am I at? There we go. Yeah, so I'll just pop a EQ in here, and you can see the EQ curve and the phase response, provided that you are compensating for latency. So let's keep going. Oh, wait, hang on one second. I need to 16 samples. need to make sure that I haven't borked anything. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. So yeah, you can see the actual the phase curve of Ableton's stock EQ, which is pretty interesting. If you've never taken a look at things like this, it's pretty great. Like if I've got 1,000 hertz 6 decibel boost, you can see how it's shifting the phase. That's this pink line right here. It's above and below the cutoff frequency. It's going to be rotating the phase. Hermanoscano, are the Thursday meetups recorded? Absolutely, for sure. We're recording on yeah, you can actually watch this on YouTube after we're done. Yeah. So yeah, really cool. I use a lot of plugins though. I do recommend all the ones we just mentioned, as well as honestly, I'm actually gonna go out on a limb and just say, check out any plugin that you're interested in, because there are so many out there. It would kind of be dumb for me to recommend just one instead of another, because there are obviously good like industry standards, like FabFilter is an industry standard at this point. Soundtoys is great, but you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to get good quality stuff. There's a lot of free plugins out there that are surprisingly good quality. Span being one of them. It's almost too good to be free. Same thing with certain analysis plugins and stuff.
Like the fact that Scope is free is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Hermanoscano, you're still having problems with the audio, huh? Huh. Is everybody else able to hear everything just fine?
Yeah, it's fine by me. Wait, play some more audio from Ableton.
All right. Let's just get this beat going.
Oh yeah, it's still playing for me.
Yep, it's good.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, man, I don't know. I would just say open up in Chrome or something. I'm not really sure what's going on there. Try it again. You want me to play some more audio? I can. Nice. No problem. You got it. We're good. Yeah, what's everybody been up to? What's kind of new in the world of mixing for you guys?
I'm currently in a March Madness style dubstep production competition. And
March
I've
Madness
got
dubstep production competition.
yeah.
That's
Yes.
awesome. So it's like a bracket.
Yeah.
Is it like bracket format?
Yeah. So I've made it to the
Crazy.
semifinals, which is crazy. Yeah, having a lot of fun. I've noticed like being forced to finish the song in a week has made me just quicker at making decisions and whatnot. And yeah, stoked to have like a bunch of sketches to actually flesh out at the end of this.
That's cool. Do you find that when you are producing faster, you're not second guessing yourself as much?
Oh, I always second guess myself. It really depends on how good the first idea is and how confident I feel about that first idea. I find that like I always second guess myself regardless,
Sure.
but when I have to finish something and like, on Sunday I have to submit a song, I have to kind of commit to something that sounds kind of cool, and then eventually I'll realize that it sounds cool, or I'll go get my fiance in the other room who can confirm whether the idea is cool or not. Having all that stuff.
That's cool. I've always heard that people recommend mixing fast. Like that's something that a lot of the pros will recommend, is like the big names will recommend, is making your mix decisions fast, so that you can at least, whenever they have like their full consoles up and everything, they recommend moving fast so that you don't get bogged down in any one area. I think that can be probably beneficial. For us, it's a little different because I feel like we have very specific targets in mind, and because we're working with music that is not acoustic in nature, a lot of the times we are having to sort of polish and massage and coerce sounds to go together that are not inherently natural sounding, like maybe entirely different atmospheres recorded in those samples. Like you sample a dub record and it's got ambience from a Jamaican studio, and then you've got a guitar or piano loop that was recorded in the 30s or something. Who knows? You've got a bunch of potential and vocals that
Sure,
you've got
yeah.
recorded from a bedroom. So it's like you got that ambience, and it's pretty crazy. I feel like we're often trying to like shoehorn things together that are not always meant to fit together, but somehow they always do.
I feel like the nature of being in the flow when you're mixing kind of
Yeah.
lends itself to working fast, but you know, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Like with a focused fast, right? Like you're not trying, you need to not be distracted. Moving quickly is definitely important though, so you don't lose that flow.
Yeah, 100%. How's everybody doing with the approach and like the application of it and everything? Like, did anybody get any new kind of insights or breakthroughs after the Tuesday episode with watching the mix down change and then how that like affected the master? Anybody have any kind of like mind blowing moments because of that?
It made me kind of realize that um I had things right before
Yeah,
with loud drums
yeah,
because like I had for a long time um other people's tracks, my tracks, sketches that I put together that I would just sit there and just beat up and down and mess with and try every plugin and every different possible thing. And for a while I was pushing my drums really hard, but
yeah,
the thing I was doing wrong, at least, the thing I was doing different is I was pushing them right into like a true peak brick wall limiter and not
mm,
taking advantage of the soft clipping because that was
yeah,
kind of like what the industry tells you to do, oh, you can't go
yeah,
over zero, like,
yeah,
and then kind of like that, and then just like the low end, the width in the low end and widening that out even more so than I was before.
yeah.
That's been like the two big things for me lately.
Those are huge. Getting it right early on and like knowing how to use clipping to your advantage is a huge thing. I mean, it comes straight out of rock music. That's kind of where I believe it started. Oh, I guess electronic music too, but mostly rock. They were pushing things super hard. That's why everybody liked the SSL because like you could when you started pushing it, it started imparting its own distortion on it, and all recording consoles would distort, and everybody liked the Neve for classical stuff because it sounded so sweet. It's got like even order harmonics, but then the SSL has got like odd order harmonics, and so you can push low end through that a lot bigger, and like it's like the SSL is kind of like the sound of rock and roll because everybody would push it super hard, and um, yeah, in traditional music education, they're always telling you not to push things, and it's kind of you know they're always like make sure you maintain headroom, and like all that's good advice, but at the same time, it's like, well, if you're going to be pushing it through a limiter at the end anyway, go ahead and see what it's going to sound like earlier on, and it makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like you're using it as a microscope or something, you know. What's up, Lansky?
Lansky. Yeah, we got a Audio Movers link. Someone tell them what Audio Movers
Oh
is.
yeah, Audio Movers. Lansky, we got Ableton pulled up. So if we jump back into Ableton, feel free to check out the pinned messages up at the top, and you can grab some links to either check out HD video or get quality audio coming from Ableton. And you look like you are muted. If you'd like to say something, let me make sure that everybody should have the ability to unmute. It looks like you're still muted up there. Yeah, Wolf, glue comp, great for soft clipping. Yeah, same. I use the glue comp religiously.
Very handy, like slamming
Yeah.
sounds into that and then soft clipping it. It's such a
Yeah.
funny, easy trick that you never would have like thought to do, but fuck, it's helpful.
Yeah, 100%. It's like a transient shaper mixed in with a compressor. It's so good. Yeah, the
And
Ableton
yeah,
one.
Hermano's
Sure.
kind of the Ableton, just like gaining up into it too.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was you that showed me this or somebody else, but like setting the attack time on the glue compressor to 30 and then the release to 0.1 with the
Yeah.
ratio at 10 and then turning it up means that like you're not touching the parts of it that you don't want to, but you can fucking slam it in there. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Let's
fun.
go for an example. Yeah, Hermanoscano. Let's switch it over and go for let's get a listen going on in here. So like for example, earlier I had in here, let me see if I can find my stuff. Like if you just like for example, grabbing snares. Let's just grab any old snare from a pack. Like I don't know, we always like heavy drums. Let's go for a really heavy ultimate snare compilation. There you go. There's a decent, halfway decent snare. So like, so you can hear like that's a pretty good snare, right? It's got decent body. It doesn't sound bad, but with glue comp, oh, everything lights up. So first, you know, you can pop it, and you can hear. Obviously, we got distortion. We have all of the kind of like oomph there, but we can transient shape it. Now, this is how mine defaults. I have mine set up to default to a ratio of 4:1. I find that works for me pretty well. And I sometimes change it. More often than not, I usually leave it at 4:1. And also, by the way, if you can also turn on oversampling, although I don't most of the time because I don't know why. I just haven't done it very much. But I don't know. We can maybe experiment with that, see if we can hear a difference. But in any case, I'm just gonna loop this snare over and over again here. And while I do so, I'm just gonna start compressing it. And because we've got, you know, high attack, low release, it's just allowing some of that transient through, and we're just gonna snap it super hard afterwards. So
you should set up a resampling channel underneath so we can see what that's doing to the waveform.
Totally unnecessary because I have plugins for that very purpose.
Oh, sick. Never mind.
I got you. I got you. Yeah, we're going to do a Signalizer. This is another one of those plugins. Way too good to be free.
Like, yeah, I was about to say, this
way
is a great, like,
too good to be free, but it is
unheard
free.
of plugin.
Yeah.
Drop.
So I'll tell you what we'll do is let me actually shrink this. Actually, let's do this. Let's overlay the channels. Let's just look at the center channel. And I'm going to shrink it. And hopefully it doesn't crash. Oh. This is my main problem with my computer and Signalizer is it doesn't like Signalizer. So give me 1 second to reset this thing.
Wait, I thought Signalizer looked different last time. It was just hanging out in your info box view.
Yeah, hang on 1 second and I'll show you. It crashed Ableton. Womp womp womp. Classic. It's weird because when Signalizer works, there's literally no other better plugin. I can't think of a better visualizer plugin for most of my uses. But whenever it doesn't work, it really doesn't work, and it crashes, you know, pretty hard. All right, here we go. Here we go. We're back. Wah, wah, wah. And let's move our stuff down. Let's get to where we can see this thing. There we go. All right. So let's try that one more again. And I'm just going to leave it. Oh, loop. Let's back it up. Let's loop some of this. That'll be good. Cool. So watch while we do this, and you can see the compression start to occur here. So you see that? Like, instantly add snap right to the beginning. See that? It's just immediate. And then, so before, and then start pushing it into the saturator. It's like an instant snappy drum. Like, nothing wrong with that. And you can totally use that. And you can dial this in however many different ways. You
gotta reset up your listen to it, by the way. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. But you can see it though. Yeah, you can still see it. Hang on.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Exactly.
Chat Town, if I do this right, you won't have to reset anything for anybody. Nobody should have to do anything. So let me know. Can you hear it?
Oh yes.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Thank you for letting me know. So yeah, by the way, let me move my window up here, my second Discord, so I can see when people type a little easier. There we go. So yeah, here's the before. Here's after. So it's just a night and day difference. I really love it for a lot of different things. And like, let's pump it up to 10-1 and let's just see what that can do. Starting again from scratch here. Yeah, look at that transient we put on there, and then slam it. Yeah, like there's so much versatility in this plugin, and of course, this is not what it's really designed for, but it's something I love it for. It kind of almost replaced the Shack Audio Transient Shaper, SHAACK. Yeah, SHAACK, Shack, like Shack Audio.
I like
Transient shaper.
the saturation on the Shack.
It's so good. It's so warm. It's just like a tube distortion. It's a really good tube distortion on there. Yeah, and honestly, this has basically replaced it. I haven't even installed it on this machine, and I've had this machine for like a year and a half. I own it, just haven't put it on here because of you know, handful of different reasons. Yeah, so glue comp, super duper useful. I love it for drums, and you can, you know, the whole mix obviously really loves it. It's kind of what it was designed for in the first place. And this is based off of an SSL G series bus compressor. For anybody who's not aware, the company Cytomic here, they made a plugin. They make a plugin version of this, like a VST version of this, or, you know, third party version that you can use in any DAW. And yeah, Ableton was like, yeah, we like that. Let's get that involved with the DAW. So it's pretty cool. Go back to a 2-up. There we go. There you go. Yeah, Hermanoscano,
Is
that
anyone
was
here?
pretty sick. What's that?
Is anyone in here that doesn't use Ableton? I'd like to hear your
Great
story.
question. Great question.
Or if anyone has any what do you call it? Experience, because I'm only in Ableton.
Yeah, if anybody has any experience with other DAWs, what DAWs, and what was your experience? And why is Ableton the best? No.
Noisia would disagree with you there.
Totally.
They use Cubase from all of their tutorials, and quite a few of the drum and bass producers out there use like Cubase. Actually, it seems like it's a pretty solid DAW.
Yeah, Cubase is one that I've always been I've had an affection for, and I've never used it. I've wanted to download it, but I don't have any reason to at this point. Ableton being so integrated into my workflow, and
Of course,
all that.
yeah.
But I still love it. If I had a little bit more of a reason to, I would absolutely be on Cubase. I would probably be on. I know I would download Reason again. I used to use Reason a lot. I haven't downloaded it since like version 8 or something like that. That's when I was using it. Was version 8. But Reason was fantastic. I started in Reason, moved to, or actually I started on FL, then moved to Reason, then moved to Ableton. I just got Reaper. Shout out to Reaper if anybody uses Reaper.
I was gonna say, I think that the shit posting group would have a couple of things to say about Reaper.
For sure. For sure.
Hermanos guy's got a question.
I see that. Can any of you remember what video the best practices walks us through making the unlinked compressors? Oh, and you use FL Studio occasionally. Started on Cubase, moved to Reason, then Ableton. Ableton is all you need. Yeah, pretty much. No, there's nothing that will really replace Reason and FL, honestly, as far as their instrumentation goes. Like, they just have some really good instruments. Harmor in FL, Citrus in FL, like those are great. And then Reason got just everything. Thor is fantastic. Yeah, Harmor's the reason you use FL. Yeah, and Vocodex. Vocodex is probably the best vocoder that I think exists. But what video? The question was, what video and the best practices to walk you through the making of the unlinked? I don't think
Did Seth remake it when he was doing the ear training episode and the mastering videos?
I don't. I feel like he didn't. I feel like he just gave it out. So if you go Hermanoscano, if you just go to the archive and then look up at the top for Seth's engineering assets, it's probably in there. And if it's not, I'll give you one.
No, it's
about
in
one.
there.
You just need to understand it. Yeah. Well, the cool here. Check this out. So it's more or less, if you think about it like this, you can actually stereo unlink practically anything if you want, because all you're doing is using the listening function of a compressor or a gate or anything that has a sidechain input. You're just using that as a quote unquote insert signal anywhere iser. So here's what we can do. So for example, let's say that we wanted to make a stereo unlinked glue. I've already got one made, but let's go ahead and make one just for, uh-oh. What just happened? Did Ableton just crash again? Ableton totally just crashed again.
Is it Ableton 11?
No, I'm on Ableton 10. So
Oh,
yeah.
it's probably because the streaming's taking a lot.
Well, what's weird is crashes usually seem to happen in bunches. So once it crashes once, it's more likely to crash again in that session. So for whatever reason, just something to do with the code kind of gets caught up, and once you reset it, usually it's okay. So let me get that figured out here, and we will hop back. Yeah, okay, here we go. So there we go.
One thing, I'm sorry, I don't want to move too far beyond this, but while we're waiting, I had an answer for like what do we like about the approach and like how we like going through it, like our own experiences. I haven't been able to touch much of it, even though I've been part of it for 3 months.
Yeah.
And I like how like cyclical it is.
Yeah, all of it. It all builds on itself. It's like math. You have to learn the early stuff, but then it also like you'll start seeing the easy, like the early stuff repeat, later on, and it all kind of feeds upon itself. Hermanoscano, which one of these is the one we should use? All of them. I mean, the lifter is a specific implementation of stereo unlinking that like kind of it does exactly what it says. It just kind of lifts up the top end. It's set up exactly how Seth usually likes to use it. So here, for example, if you look, can you see the screen? Yeah, you can see. So, and I've got to set up Audio Movers one more again because it crashed. I'll get this right. Don't worry. Chat down Q&A. There we go. So in case we do anything audible. But yeah, just hopping on here. So here is a rack, and let me make this a little larger for anybody who's perhaps watching elsewhere. I'll make this just a little larger, so maybe, well, no, I can't because it'll screw up my little overlay here. Okay. Well, I tried. Yeah, okay. Well, in any case, here's what you got to do. Because, again, the compressor can just listen to anything, the sidechain input here, this key input, as it's sometimes called, allows you to listen to anywhere. You can use this monitor function to bypass all of this and just use this as a listen anywhere device. That's kind of how this whole thing can kind of work. You're really taking advantage of the power of this sidechain. So, for example, first thing we have to do is just create a situation where signal will come in from the left and get split into an independent left and a right. And from there, we can actually begin to kind of make sense of all of it. So first of all, let's create two chains, one for left, the other one for right. It's not as easy as just like panning to the left and then panning to the right. And the reason it's not that easy is because of the fact that these faders happen after the audio processing. So whatever we do, it'll pan that all the way to the left and that all the way to the right. So what we need to do on those channels is actually create a isolation. So on the right channel here, I'm going to tell it, instead of listening to the stereo signal, let's listen only to the right. And then same thing on the left. I'm just going to say, hey, instead of listening to the stereo, listen only to the left. And so now that we're listening only to the left, we're taking a stereo signal, and on each channel, we're saying, hey, only listen to the left or the right, or just only listen to one of the sides. And then after that, we're panning that to that side. So that way it's basically just breaking apart the stereo image into 2 independent signals. And this whole thing right here is going to be our sidechain. Like that's going to be what we're going to be feeding both of the compressors from. So let's group this up. And so we'll just call this the sidechain. And so what we're going to do, we're making an artificial listening circuit. That's essentially what this is. So now, same story, we just have to do this exact same thing, just with 2 compressors instead. So I'll grab a new effect rack. So this will be our ESSION. Yeah, there you go. Compression, or I could just call it comp. You can't see all the word. There you go. And so this will be a utility track. This will be a compression track. Or I don't even have to have it this way. I can usually you can just have like a left and a right here. That'll probably make it simpler. So I'll call this comp left. Make another one for the right. And I'll do it green and purple. Like the Hulk. And then let's do left. Let's do right. Okay. So we drop compressors on there. There's this one. And before I drop it on the right channel, I'm going to go ahead and map up some parameters so that, because I want mine to react or to be set the same. I don't want different values because most of the content that I'm going to send into it, I want it to react similarly. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the most important ones first. Let's see, threshold. Let's see. I'm going to put threshold on there. I'm going to put ratio, attack, and release all up at the top. Thresh, I'm going to call this ratio, ATK, REL for release. What else? Let's go for output level. Let's put that down here at the bottom right. Just going to call that output. Output. There you go. What else? The knee will be an important one. Let's do that over here. And let's do the look ahead. That's an important one. Set that up right here. Just going to call it look. And why not? Let's go ahead and set up this thing right here. This mode. I'm going to use the Live 9 compressor. I want to make a Live 9. So there we go. So I'm going to set the mode up on this macro here. So model or mode, whatever. So, okay. I've got a sidechain now that's effectively splitting the signal left and right. And that's going to be turned off. I don't need to hear that. That's just there to do the splitting. I don't need to hear its actual output. I need to hear the compression happening. So to get this to happen, what I have to do is essentially say, okay, actually, you know what? I need to turn off this model here because I want this to be our unlink amount. There we go. That'll be our unlink amount. And so, okay, I'm going to say, hey, left compressor, you're going to not listen to what's just coming in. I'm going to say, hey, left compressor is going to listen to, let me get rid of these tracks so it makes it a little more simple. Left compressor listens to the track that we're on, which is track 1. It's going to listen to the side chain, but it's going to listen to sidechain left post effects. And what that allows me to do is basically say, okay, actually in here, it's listening to this channel after this effect. So let me go ahead and pan it here, and this probably won't matter, but there you go. So there's that. There's that. So compressor left is now listening 100% to the sidechain circuit that we built over there, that extra sidechain here. It's listening to that and is listening to after that utility. So post effect, so after the effect. And that sounds good. To test this so that we can make sure that it's exactly what we need to have happen, I need to, anytime you split signals left and right, you need to reduce the output level by what I believe is either, I think it's 3 dB. It's either 3 or 6. If I remember my pan law correctly, it's 3 dB. So because we're splitting this like this, we need to turn each down so that it remains equal level. So yeah, okay, now this is listening to the sidechain, the left. This one is going to listen to, oh wait, because I already mapped this, that's why I did this. I mapped it, and now I'm going to copy it down here, and everything's already mapped. That's why I map it before I copy it. So this one is going to listen to sidechain right, post effects. Cool. And so now this mix is basically saying how much of the input to the compressor is coming from this. And what I can say is either 100% or none. So here is basically where I would link this back to that and this back to that. And to make sure that this actually works, because there's always something I get caught up on, I'm going to grab I'm going to put this on a MIDI track here and grab a synthesizer to send some data through it. There we go. Cool. And so I'm just sending a tone, and Hermanos Ganos typing. I see. You think you're getting it? Yeah. It makes sense after you think about it for enough. It's like, okay, you're basically just telling it how much of the sidechain you want to, how much of this artificial input you want to feed into it. And that artificial input is just splitting things left and right. So, so it's just like a normal, use just like a normal comp, but set up in a way to maintain stereo width. Yeah, it's maintain stereo independence. So that allows for the width, and it's the stereo independence. It's not like the compressor actually monos your signal. It's just that it's responding to a monoed signal, and that's the part. Trauma Ward, were you saying something?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, like, I came from like a more electrical background working on cars, so like this is like a perfect example of like serial and
parallel.
It's like parallel, yes, together.
Yeah, exactly.
Series parallel.
Exactly. Yeah, so like we've got the parallel processes like here, and then there's a lot going on. So to make sure that this is actually doing what we need, I'm just going to plop a signal down here. And just to make it not annoying, I'm going to put it at 100 hertz. And so now to make sure that this is responding correctly, what I have to do is I'm going to pan that signal. I'm just going to have that signal jump back and forth. And to do that, a pan itself is just a volume control for the left and the right independently. That's all it really is. So I'm just going to pan it back and forth like that. And that'll be a pretty good, analogy for a stereo signal. It's just independent left and right stuff. And so I'm going to say, okay, hey, like if I have this, if this is working, basically, then when this is stereo unlinked, the signal will, like both compressors will be responding basically the whole time. I'm sorry, if it's stereo unlinked, they will be responding 50% of the time. And if it's linked, then they will be responding all of the time. Because it doesn't matter which side the signal is on, when you sum it, it's still the same. And so right now, we see that this compressor, even though the input is moving, the actual the compressor is not actually doing anything different. Therefore, it's not stereo unlinked, and that makes sense. So if we turn up the unlinking, see? So now it's responding independently.
Can you show the right chain again? Comp right.
Comp right. Yeah, it's identical. It's literally identical.
Okay, so
One-
you just have the sidechain mix mapped identically both to the
Yep.
unlink.
Yeah. And so what this really allows is just us to, it doesn't matter whether the signal is like, I'll give you a good example. It is I had a vocal, I had a track, I think it was a vocal that was like hard right, or like not hard right, but maybe like 20 right. And I kept trying to compress it. And to show somebody what this was doing, you just used a stereo unlink compressor. And what this did was a regular compressor, whenever the volume of that vocal got loud, you can think about a regular compressor, because it's mono summing this sidechain, it's responding to like an absolute value of level. It doesn't matter if it's value in the left, value in the right. It doesn't really matter. It's just absolute value. So whenever the sidechain, or whenever that vocal got loud, the compressor squashes down. But if you have it unlinked, it's just like only the left side is going to squash down whenever the vocal gets loud, and that can cause the vocal, which would be coming out of the left speaker or whatever, to like get like skews the stereo image slightly every time that happens. So that's why this is really used. Hermanoscano asks, are 11 comps different than Live 9 and 10? Yes, actually they are a little bit, but not very much. Mr. Event Horizons can probably answer to that one, because
Yeah.
it's a little different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I haven't been using it that much. But it does have the one difference is it shows the gain reduction.
Yeah, that was huge.
That
I'm
was
glad
a
they did that.
big thing.
Yeah.
But I'm building the device right now with Live 11 just as an exercise.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, so you can easily see like how, because of that, you can you can like split process practically anything. And let's go back actually. You can even, because of this, you can even have a split processor for things like saturation or split reverbs. You can do split reverbs like this. You have to dip. Oh yeah. Hey, you're welcome, man. Take care. Have fun. Enjoy the time with the fam. Yeah. So yeah, that's it's a really, really cool trick. You can do a lot of things with that. Like split left and right multiband is pretty nuts. Actually, I should build one of those. I haven't ever built one of those. But the problem with doing that, it's a logistics problem. Ableton 11 probably wouldn't have a problem with it, because you're not limited to 8 macros. But with, because you have to macro everything back like this, back so that you can control both sides at once. Otherwise, it gets a little nuts. But if you try to do that with a multi-band compressor, for example, you'll have, let's see here. You have 1, 2, that's 2 parameters for the crossovers. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 controls. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, so you really wouldn't have the ability to control all of it at once. How many macros are you limited to? Is it 16 in Live 9? I mean, sorry, Live 11?
Yeah.
16?
Yeah, it's 16.
Yeah, so in theory, you could probably get you could get close. You could probably get, let's see. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You would just have to set your crossovers, like, and you have to set them and forget them, basically. They have to be identical, and you can't really change them. But you could do it. You'd just be limited a little bit. Kind of an interesting concept, though. An independent left-right multiband would be pretty nuts. Interesting thought. Anybody else have any questions, curiosities, concerns, quirks, contributions? How many other words can I think of that start with that? Anybody else have any questions? Approach related or otherwise? Any new developments in the industry?
There's always new developments every day.
Every day. What's one you've heard recently? Because I've heard a couple that are pretty interesting.
the big thing, like, for me this week that everybody's talking about, and I have it, and I kind of feel mixed about it with how it's running on my system, is the Acustica Audio, that Sienna plugin, which is like their
Hmm.
headphone correction plugin.
What do you think about it?
And
What's it? Is
I
it
mean,
behaving well or?
so I've got it on Sound Source, right?
Yeah.
And I've never shown you, but I have tons of plugins on my Sound Source, and I have several, like, I have Audi's Reveal Plus, Can Opener, Redline Monitor, Deer VR Monitor, just like a lot
A
of
lot of stuff.
headphone type plugins.
Yeah.
And as soon as I throw Sienna, any of the 3, because they have, like, just the correction, just the room sound, or Sienna Guru, which is both of them. And as soon
Hmm.
as I throw those on here, I get significant delay will be audible with this effects configuration, and I've never had that pop up in Sound Source before, and sorry, it was just very, very kind of latent, and
Yeah.
just wasn't whatever. So then, like, I commented about it, and when you go to Acoustica's audio forum, like on their Facebook page, and you make any kind of comments, you just get like roasted by people. Well, what did you expect, and blah 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 blah. And even like the owners, if there's any kind of like even if it's constructive criticism, they don't like it. Like, I know people that have gotten banned from there for just making suggestions about the product. So, it's just like, I don't know,
Interesting.
but I will say I'm comparing it to these other things, flipping back and forth, and it definitely has its own sound. Now, I'm not running 50 mixes a day. I'm not like running some major mix mastering studio, so I don't have a way to like see if how it's gonna affect my workflow.
Yeah.
But it sounds good. Like, I
Yeah,
think.
that's
Um,
something I've always heard about Acustica plugins. I've not used them myself yet, but I've heard that they are incredibly resource hungry because they're doing a
oh
lot of
yeah.
high quality processing, and making a lot of
Yeah,
calculations. So I've heard
it's
about
all
that.
impulse response based, so
It's
it's
all
just like a
FIR.
giant. Yeah, it's
Okay.
all convolution, and they have
Yeah.
like algorithms where they kind of like morph between different input IRs and stuff, and
That
it's
makes
kind of
sense
weird.
then.
Like,
Yeah.
you throw Sienna on, and you're listening in your headphones, and all of a sudden there's like squeaky resonances and stuff, and
Hmm.
it's like, that's weird. But then it's kind of like the thing where you listen to it for 10 seconds, and all of a sudden, okay, that's the room, that's what this sounds like. But it's kind of jarring because you're not like, when you're in a room, you're always in that environment.
Right.
So, it's just like, I don't know. I'm not sure about it, but that was like the only really big thing that kind of came out.
Yeah. So it's called Sienna. It's a headphone. Like,
Yeah.
is it? It's a room
It's a correction.
simulator.
It's like Sonar Works, but it also
Okay.
has like room simulations that are, maybe a little bit better than the Sonar Works algorithms. But is it better than
Interesting.
Sonar Works? I mean, I don't know.
Interesting. That's really interesting. I've heard a lot about Acoustica, and I know people that swear by them. Rick Tell is a Nashvilleian who is he's written so many articles. He's sponsored by practically every plugin maker you can think of. They all like sponsor him. He's just kind of like one of those people that reviews everything, and he talks very highly of Acoustica. He's like, that's it. He's like, as far as the actual quality of plugins goes, that's his cream of the
Yeah,
crop.
yeah. If
So
you're looking for analog, uh, whatever sound, but the thing about it is, like, you move a knob in an Acoustica plugin, and you don't hear the change for 5 or 6 seconds because it's
oh,
not instantaneous. Because of the way that they're
well,
set
that's
up.
really
There's a
interesting.
delay.
Yeah, if they're FIR based, then they're probably because the so for people that are not sure what FIR means, it means finite impulse response. It gets a little convoluted, and we see what I did there, convoluted for those that know. It gets
Yeah.
intricate and detailed, but it's basically that it's a method of how can I describe this simply? Well, basically, you know how you can take a waveform from, looking at, amplitude over time, just the regular waveform or whatever, but that has like a frequency component to it and you can see it on a spectrum analyzer. That's done using the fast Fourier transform mathematics algorithm. Well, that basically just says that all, amplitude over time signals can be converted into frequency over amplitude signals. You can break any signal into its component frequency bits. And so like, for example, a regular EQ has a impulse response, so like a time domain curve that corresponds with like a low pass filter. It has a very specific time domain curve that responds to that. And with FIR, it's basically saying you are modeling circuitry in the frequency domain using time domain functions, and that's gets a little confusing. It uses mathematical convolution, which is kind of like matrix multiplication. You can think of it like that, where you've got like, a 9x9 grid, and then you've got like a 3x3 grid, and you're multiplying these numbers together. It's essentially where you take a bunch of digital values, take a shape of digital values, and as two waveforms slide together, you multiply them, and the result is the result, whatever that is. And so Acoustica is probably using really long sets of numbers. That's hence the finite impulse response. Like there's a set number of values in this impulse response. So they're probably using a really long sequence, like some ridiculously long, because the longer the finite impulse response, the more latency, but also the higher quality. And if they're known for high quality, they probably have really long impulse responses. That seems to be what makes sense. So they're probably using
That
ridiculously
makes
high.
sense.
Yeah, they're probably using like ridiculously high numbered impulse responses. And just to show you all, if anybody's curious, what I'm talking about here with impulse responses and like time domain and all this nonsense.
Yeah, it's huge resources of both
Yeah.
CPU and like hard drive space. Like I have probably 80% of their plugins, and I think it's like
There it is.
70 gigabytes or something like that.
Yeah, that's a lot. So here I have a impulse. This is a Dirac spike. Or a Dirac impulse. It's just, if I keep zooming in, you'll see it's what we call in mathematics a sinc function. It is just a file of silence. There's just no values at all. But right in the middle of that file, there is one single full-scale sample. Just one, everything is silence except for that one sample, and it's just as loud as it can be. And so in a digital system, that is the equivalent to a perfect impulse. And this is how we can use these Dirac impulses to test plugins. You can test, a lot of different systems, basically. I can go into more detail for anybody later privately if you're interested in learning more about this sort of stuff. But this is what it sounds like, and the math is such that a sufficiently short, like the shorter your impulse, the more it will act like all frequencies at the exact same time. So imagine that, like imagine a sound that is literally all of the possible sounds at once. Okay, so that's kind of how we have to think about it. So if we play this back, you can hear what that sounds like. You can just hear that pop. Can everybody hear that?
Yeah, and
Yes.
You can
look
hear
at
it.
the spectrum.
Yeah, and look at the spectrum. It's all frequencies represented equally at the same time. So how might we use this to test EQs? Well, for example, if I pop an EQ on there, you can see it is a perfect analogous representation of the frequency domain. But also, if I take this impulse response and I record, whoa, did I just do it right? No, I didn't. Hang on. I goofed. There we go. If I record this, let me do it like this. If I record that impulse going through a filter, it makes it quiet. But if I boost it up here, we can actually see the difference. If I keep zooming in. Aha. Look at that. So you see that low pass filter screws with the impulse in the time domain. And this is what is called, this is why people say that non-linear phase EQs will smear transients, or they smear the response. And that is true. They happen instantaneously, but they have audible effects in the time domain. So you can, all these little ripples that you see here, you can imagine those not existing at all, because technically speaking, they don't actually exist. This only happens because we are in a band-limited system that only is allowed frequencies up to half of the sample rate. This is called the Gibbs phenomenon, these little ripples. But you imagine that they didn't exist at all, because they, practically speaking, they don't. So imagine you have just a perfectly vertical spike. And that's basically what you see when we zoom out enough. That's what you've practically got. But if you look, this bottom one here is basically ringing out in time. So why this matters is essentially that nonlinear phase EQs will skew the time domain. And now let's do the exact same thing using a linear phase EQ. So I have here, that was at 2059 and 12 dB per octave. Okay. Let's use FabFilter. Frequency of 2059, or sorry, 2590. That's what it is. And oh, wrong one. That one. And let's set that to linear phase. And record it. And let's make another track so we can put that audio on there. And what we should see...
Pre-ringing?
Yep. If I make that larger. There we go. Here we go. We see that it doesn't affect, it responds instantaneously, but it doesn't skew the time response like the nonlinear phase EQ, but it will have audible effects in what's called pre-ringing. So it messes with the transient response really, really badly. This one doesn't really mess with the transient response per se, but it messes with the time domain. So it messes with phase. So you can have things happen instantaneously, but it screws with the phase, or you can have things happen without messing with the phase, but screws with the transient response. So it's kind of this one or the other. And so when we say impulse response and whatnot, we're talking and how EQs and all this kind of work. Basically, the FIR filters, it's just a way of saying that the filter is not based off of coded math per se. Instead, it's the same exact thing as like convolution reverb, which is like you have a recording of you have a sonic recording of an impulse response of a room where you take a sine wave and you go, it sweeps all the way up the frequencies, like all the way up. You record that, you run that mathematically through a software with the sound that you've sent out. So you have like a sine sweep. You take that sine sweep, you deconvolve it against the recording you made with that sine sweep going through a speaker system in a room. You basically subtract the source from the recording, and you're left with what's left, which is the fingerprint, so to speak, of the room. And that is called the impulse response. It's basically just a time domain representation of the frequency domain. So the two are interchangeable, basically. And so whenever these Acoustica plugins are working, they have a function that looks like this, some kind of fingerprint like this that has a really long tail on either side, like a ridiculously long tail on either side. Very high quality sample. So basically it's just saying that
Right.
they have a long amount of processing, a lot of processing to do before anything comes out every single time something gets sent through it. So, but yeah, I just wanted to show that in case anybody hadn't seen that, before, and kind of why a linear phase EQ will pre-ring. It does this exact same thing. It just compensates it by like doing it and then sliding it in forward in time. So with delay.
Yeah,
Negative
that
delay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not too long.
Nah,
when we
what's
were
up?
working with the gates, last week on the side chain, like I always
yeah.
like have Ableton open and kind of just mess around with these concepts while the class is going on. And like one of the things that I found is that even with the Dirac spike, you can't really pull the release in enough. You're really limited to, and it was weird. Like I don't understand why like the release is 0.0001 seconds and it still has this kind of like
It's like 30
logarithmic.
milliseconds. Yeah.
And I was just wondering if you had any input about that.
I do, and I think it has to do. Well, let me confirm my theory before I say it out loud, which is essentially that my theory is basically that the processing required is going to take some amount of time, and they're not reporting it to the DAW. No, the delay for this plugin is 1.5 milliseconds. I'm not exactly sure why it takes so long. Like, for example, all these values super duper short. So 0.02, so that's 2 microseconds. 1 millisecond, 100 microseconds. If you run an impulse through this, it will still be at most 30 milliseconds. So, and I'm not sure why. I think it just has to do with, I genuinely think it has to do with how long the impulse remains in amplitude above the threshold. Because if I were to draw an artificial threshold in here, so let me switch colors here. So like, if that is my threshold, I'm pretty confident that the system basically is ringing, if that makes sense. It's like the signal will hit this over the threshold and then ring out for some milliseconds before actually falling back down and then kind of, disappearing it throughout the release process. I'm not 100% about that, but it's the only thing I can really think of as to why that might be.
I was really excited about that just because I was like, damn, it's so clean, and I was looking at it and no pops, and it's like, man, this is amazing. And then I started using it just with a sketch, and it was like, oh, there's that like super taily, like the kind of
I will say
sidechain compression.
I will say I do have good results with it, like using it practically. Instead of using it with an impulse response, like actually using it, I do get good results with it.
So you're using it with like the actual with the kick?
Yeah. So let me set up let's do some basic sound design and get a decent little bass here, and we will and we can have something to test. So I'm just going to make a simple bass sound by having white noise over top of a bass, like that, and then running that through a distortion unit. There you go. So now we have a bass. Let's make that. Let's make this a workable, melody of some kind. Wait, let's make this let's change to the key here. Quick music theory hack for anybody who doesn't know music theory. You can, like, let's say, like right now I want to write an F minor. Well, I happen to know what F minor is, but like, let's say that you don't know how to make melodies in a particular key, major or minor or whatever. Really
Write
good
an A
music theory
minor?
hack. Yeah, yeah, exactly. You write an A minor, which is just all the white keys from A to A, and then just transpose everything, and that can work really, really well. So, for example, let's just go here. I'm just writing in white notes starting on A, and then drop it down to wherever you want it.
As soon as I learned that,
Yeah.
it was like as soon as I realized that,
It's a great trick, isn't it?
yeah, it's like my like I tell everybody that.
That'll work. And let's just grab a basic. Let's just use an Ableton kick drum, one that Ableton comes with here. That's the one. No, wait. There's one in mind. One I always have. I don't know if anybody can hear that. That'll work.
No.
It's okay. You're about to hear it. So I've just got this kick here. It's a pretty long kick. That's why I've chosen it. And if I drop it into a sampler, by the way, let's go here. There we go. So if I then grab, let's color these a little different. So we've got some visual contrast happening. Quarter notes. Right, so pretty boring. Let's now sidechain this. Okay. Let's go for the gate. Now, with the gate, what I find is that you generally want to have the return all the way down. This not actually going down that far. You can leave all that pretty much alone. Have the look ahead set a little higher, and you want to filter the sidechain. That's going to be the part that kind of gets you that quicker response time. So there we go. So give me 1 second, everybody. Make sure we're recording. Double checking something. Okay. All right, we're good. So, yeah, so now I hit flip, and that means that it flips the gate so that now only signal, when the signal coming in from the sidechain is above the threshold, it will cut the sound. So now we just dial it to taste, and usually I have this pretty high, so like, I gotta change that. That's just so happy. I had to
There you
change.
go.
Yeah, I had to make that a little less happy. It was a little weird. Here, I'm just gonna keep it. Let's just go straight with it here. Actually, let's just go.
It's definitely great for like kind of a 4 on the floor beat.
Yeah. So what I find is you got to be really subtle with it. doesn't sound bad. Like, you really don't have
No.
that, like, it's not really a problem, you know? I usually boost up the gain on the sidechain too, just to... And like, well, like what Seth was saying in our last one of these, it was just like that whole AU5 kind of style really lends itself well to use to this kind of processing, because the it's like big sound, another big sound, another big sound, another big sound. It's like this checkerboarding of noises. And actually, yeah, let me see if I can find that song that I've been listening to a lot of his lately. I like AU5's music quite a bit, and there's one song in
Divindorum
particular.
for me.
Oh yeah, so good. There's so many. All of his music it's remarkable, to put it bluntly.
Thank you, Austin.
Yeah, thank you, Austin. Keep shredding, my man. It is so good. This song is one that I like lately. It's called Interstellar, and it just without a shadow of a doubt, I'm sure he used a gate on this track at some point. Whether he used it as his main sidechain or not, I don't know. But if he did, you can't tell, and that's what I find pretty amazing about it. So here we go.
Interstellar night space, no one else sees.
It's really transparent.
In the underground, we're living low key.
Like, especially when the main drums come in.
Can give you peace here in your mind. And as I found no place in the dead of night to come alive. Life is waiting on the other side. Follow me into the underground. Watch the world changing as the sun goes down. Follow me into the underground.
Just such a really well balanced drum mix. I'm quite
Yeah,
fond of it,
definitely.
and especially on the main drops. Whenever if there's a lot of side chaining happening, it's very clean.
Follow me into the
You know, it's that massive sound, and like it's obvious that everything is just punching everything else out of the way. So, yeah, I'm always a big fan of that, and it makes sense that he would use a gate if that's the style, right? Like full on synth, massive kick, full on synth again, massive kick. You know, really, really cool.
There's one plugin that I've seen that I've wanted to try. It's called Laser by Sweet Sonics. Have you seen that?
No, let me take a look.
Because I'm just, it's like looking for the best sidechain solutions. Because I like the MIDI sidechain, like with LFO tool, but you
Yeah,
still
that's a
get
really
pops and
clever one.
clicks in there.
Yeah, you can. You definitely can. I mean, what's it? I have it. It's called it's the infected mushroom one. What's that called?
Yeah, the
Gatekeeper.
I have that one too. Yeah,
So
Gatekeeper.
Gatekeeper is about the cleanest method I have ever found for ducking. And I've tested it with like impulses. I've tested it with everything. It is exactly what you draw is exactly what you get. But my main concern is that you have to be pretty meticulous. Like if this had a display, like a and maybe the new version of it does. Maybe I just haven't updated. If it had an oscilloscope underneath it, it would be everything I'd ever wanted. But the fact that I kind of have to guess what my kick is doing. Like I have to kind of take a guess about what the amplitude is doing. It kind of trips me up a little bit. Like I don't want to have
Is it
to.
MIDI triggerable?
It is MIDI triggerable. So it will start anytime you hit MIDI. So if I turn this off and route MIDI into it, then it's going to be just fine. But the main problem is just that even though it's MIDI triggerable, the shape itself is the main problem. Like how do you determine
Yeah, you,
what
you need to
you know?
see the
You have to see the waveform of your
see
kick,
the
and then
waveform.
that's where I get kind of weirded out about gatekeepers, or I call them gatekeepers, but like these volume gates, these volume choppers. Technically speaking, these are infinitely faster than compressors and gates combined, but they, unless you're getting it just exactly right, it just kind of freaks me out psychologically. I'm not sure why, because I want it to be
LFO
like
tool.
LFO tool
Uh,
does. Yeah, LFO tool
yeah,
does.
that has it.
And like I said, maybe the new version of this one does, but I'm just not aware of it. I'm not 100% sure. Let me go into this. I'm checking out Sweet Sonics right here. And let me grab this link.
It's
We can
called
take a look.
Laser.
Laser by Sweet Sonics.
It's
Yeah.
one of those things like back in 2019, I saw some people talking about it. And, you never know if it's the people who got it for free to review it or not. Not everybody discloses that kind of stuff when they're
Right.
doing things on their channel.
Yeah. And that makes sense. I mean, like depending on circumstances, I imagine that I think most people have to, like that's part of their thing, is like some people will tell you straight up like, yeah, this is a paid review by blah blah blah, but sometimes
Yeah.
not. Yeah, let's take a look here. Oh, I don't need that. There we go. Now this is interesting. Laser automatic laser algorithm. Oh, we're getting into the point where we're using laser algorithms.
Right.
Precise time focus controls. Let's see here. Offset with dynamic latency. Okay. And I guess that's this offset here. Okay. And what is it exactly? Precise sidechainer.
It's intriguing.
It is intriguing. Oh, and it does seem to be frequency specific, right? High, mid, and low. Although I bet you could. How much is it? $60. Precise sidechainer, laser sidechainer plug-in for every situation and music genre. Unique timing controls. I don't know what that is. I am not allowing that to connect to Google. And it is I hate it when I like iLok, but I really don't like having to deal with iLok stuff. But
Yeah, I can imagine that would be a pain if you're mobile at all. Like me,
Yeah.
I have my iLok inside of my the new Mac Pro has a USB port inside of it.
yeah,
So I just have the iLok inside there, and if I have to use something on my laptop, I either authorize one of the second licenses that you get with a lot of stuff to the cloud on the laptop, or I just don't use it and I just use other stuff.
yeah. This seems really interesting. Honestly, if this does what I'm thinking it does, this would probably be an ideal compromise for me. Having said that, I'm curious about what detection they're actually going to be able to do. And I would test this using my DC signal method that I
Right.
I think I showed you all last time. Well, this looks very interesting. Honestly, I might have to. Do they have trials? I believe they do.
Yeah, there's a trial. I
Start
have
the
not
trial.
trialed it yet.
Try 21 days. Okay, well, that
So,
seems
like, just
like
breaking
that
down
could be
the
something really cool.
front portion of that plugin.
Yeah.
The detection, it says transients and continuous. Is that like
that got me too.
peak or RMS modeled?
Well, perhaps. Well, I think transient might be a threshold based value, but I don't know.
I guess I could just download the trial and find out.
I guess we're all gonna have to download the trial and find out, because that
Yeah.
seems to be a very interesting method. What other kind of plugins does this company make? Does this plugin have? This company have?
I think that's their only plugin.
Really? It is. Well, neat. That is really, really cool. I will try this and let you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And you
I'm a-
try it
I-
and let me
like,
know.
I will. I'm gonna do some testing with it now that I kind of have seen your testing methods, and I kind of have like my own stuff that I do.
Yeah, you
For
can
me,
totally. Yeah, you can totally use the DC method.
Yeah, and for me, it's just like it's about ease of use of setting it up too. Just because sometimes
That's usually why I go for the compressor, because it's so quick.
right.
So let's
I-
test this gate. Let me dial this in and let's see if we can get this thing to actually let's see how close I can kind of intuitively get it to feel right, and then let's see what that actually looks like, on a graph, and see if how close that is to the
Right.
original. So let me dial this in to like where I think it might sound cool. Let's go up to like 800 or so. What if I tried like no release controls at all, so like as fast as possible? Nah, it's just too weird. Yeah.
See, I was using Pro G, and it doesn't do that with the Pro G. It doesn't, like, even no releases. It was weird.
I need like another sound in there so I can kind of get a feel for the groove a little better. So I'm just gonna grab a basic high. Where's my kit? Oh, there it is. Just want to grab a tiny little hi-hat. I'm just gonna grab a little offbeat hi-hat just to kind of keep me feeling it. You know. Who we got popping in here? Mr. Gus
Hello,
Class.
Gus.
So here we go.
What's up, Gus Class?
All right, so there's just something to give me like the sense of the timing a little better. And so
Right.
let's keep tuning this, and let me shorten this up. Okay. I think that feels pretty good to me. If I wanted it to pump more, we could, like.
I think it's style dependent too.
Yeah, if I were going for like a pretty neutral feeling, I'm going to go for that. So, okay, so to get this, okay, let me think about how, all right, let's delete that because I don't need that. I want to get a DC signal. Let's go ahead and zoom in here so everybody can kind of see. I'm going to get a DC signal generator. DC signal. Oh, no. DC signal generator. And doesn't matter what note. I just need some tone. There we go. We have some DC. Okay, now on that DC, I'm going to have that exact gate triggering from the kick. Ducking this DC out of the way, and we should see, there we go. Now, if I bounce the kick, we should have a good thing to compare it to. And let's see what we got. Oh, wow, that's actually pretty darn close. I just saw somebody posting something. Oh no, I'm getting messages. That's what it is. Okay. So, yeah, that actually works kind of well. It's not perfect, but that's actually why I like it, because it actually reduces sound just a little bit before. And look at that. I mean, I actually this is just with ears. So I'm pretty proud of myself, honestly. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens if we turn off the look ahead feature, because maybe that was a bit too much or something. So let's take a listen. So let's undo that, undo that, undo that, and let's go back to tuning it really quickly, and then I'll tune it without the DC. I'm sorry, without the look ahead, and we'll see what we got. So what's weird is like oh yeah. Yeah, what's up, Gus? No worries. You got it all worked out?
Yeah, I should have it worked out. It's just my I got weird key bindings and I usually want it turned on.
Yeah, I understand. You just ran up into the middle of a testing session with Ableton's Gate. If you want to check it out, there's links pinned up at the top, and an Audio Movers link should be pinned there as well. We're on YouTube and Vimeo, so whichever you want to check out.
All right, dope. Thank you.
Yeah, man. So here, I think the whole thing with like tuning this is just trying to get it so that it's not like a ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, so it actually feels like it's, a part of the. It's actually kind of grooving,
I think it sounds great.
I think that does sound pretty good. Yeah, let's roll with that. So that's with 0 look ahead. Still got a little bit of attack just so it doesn't pop. Let's drop that down onto this DC signal. And let's first do this. Let's do this one first. All right, there we go. And okay, now the look ahead, I mean the release I let go pretty. I didn't get the release very tight that time, but I think that actually still feels kind of right for some reason. For whatever reason, that kind of imperfection. And I think it made sense actually, because when you think about it, like I set it up so that it ended. Look at that. It ended like right as the kick ended. Huh. That's pretty interesting. So, what if we do this? We can kind of see where it starts. Yeah, look at that. It responds pretty well. I mean, I think with a little work, you can set that up to be pretty darn spot on, but it's the release. That's the main problem.
Right.
So, if that's the problem, and it seems to be,
it's almost like you need a different threshold for the release than you do the attack. That's I think that's the problem.
And that's actually what you can do here with the return. But in a perfect world, this would actually be backwards. Like I wouldn't be able to go down that way. I could go up. So
right.
Like so maybe I could do that here. So yeah, that feels okay. What about that one? Yeah, I think that works. Honestly,
Yeah, there
it's
you
not
go.
perfect, but it works. If you could just get that release just the tiniest bit shorter, it would work even more. And you know, whoa, I feel like it's possible.
Is the hold time affecting it at all?
100%. That sounds okay. And again, this would also matter a lot, like you said, stylistically, depending on like context and things like that would matter quite a bit in this circumstance. So, what about that one? Oh yeah. Ha. Now we're cooking. Yeah, I do
Yeah.
think a gate is a really effective method here. I really, really do. And also, like, we can rectify this signal, and make this a little more. Yeah. We can rectify this signal and make it even more obvious as to what's actually happening. So, rectify. I think I have a max for live. It does rectification. Rectify. Full rectification. And also let's invert polarity after rectification. And what we'll do is new track. Drop this down there. Let's zoom in there. And yeah, that for the most part would probably work. It's not bad. Not perfect, but it's not bad. This is why that look ahead was super useful, because the look ahead would
Kills
move.
the transient.
Yeah, it pushes that out a little further. Yeah. So with look ahead now, if we like this curve, let's do a little bit of look ahead. A little bit gets it pretty darn close. Like that. I think that's.
I think you really.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I think like a lot of times people think that they need to dig right into that beginning transient.
Yeah, you're
You
right.
also
I don't
have
think
to
they do.
remember- You also have to remember that that's a lot of high energy that stacks a lot better. And I think that
Exactly.
a lot of times the kick will distort through the body there where you have the sub.
Right.
Like the lower once the lower frequency kicks in, I think that's gonna cause more distortion than the initial transient.
I think you're right. Yeah, I definitely think you're right. And because in my experience, I've gotten really good results with a gate. Like there was no problem whatsoever, and I'm probably still going to keep using them. Even
Yeah.
if they're not, they're not perfect. Like it's fine. I don't need it perfect. That's actually exactly why people like the envelope followers to begin with, because they're not perfect. They now that's interesting. I put it to 10 milliseconds. And I wonder, it feels like it shortened this up. Did that actually happen? It did. Well, That's weird.
Maybe you would have to use that hold function to
Yeah.
change it.
So it literally moved the release time. Now that's something interesting. Exactly 10 milliseconds. Huh. Okay. So we're learning something, right? So that is interesting. So if I now let's put that back on here. Copy that and paste that there. Now I need 10 milliseconds of delay. I mean, I think that works. I mean, it's definitely... Huh. Sounds okay. That feature, I just want to say something to Ableton. If anybody from Ableton is ever listening, thank you so much for implementing the click and then Z to zoom in on that section. That is awesome. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say
Yeah, for sure.
that is like probably one of my favorite features lately of Ableton. And then just it allows you to navigate so quickly. Like that saves so much time. Did I not put 10 milliseconds of look ahead? I guess I didn't. I don't know. Oh, no, I didn't. Plus 10 and... yeah, there we go. That's correct. Huh. Well, honestly, it's kind of like the same situation as we were just talking about, like the transient. A lot of people think you need to really dig in and get the transient. Yeah, I don't think you do, because that's where you get too much click. Too much of the click comes in. But also like the tail end, I would probably cut that off of my kick anyway. Because usually a long kick like that, like that's 100 milliseconds. It's not too long, but yeah, usually you don't need to cut it off like that tight, but maybe we could. I don't know. Let's find out. So I love doing these little experiments where we can kind of figure this stuff out, because it gets us answers.
Then you don't have to look at it again.
Yeah, it's like once you figure it out, you know. I'm going to go too far, and then I'm going to draw it back. Yeah, see, if you go too far, it just starts to sound like it's like two separate events happening. And since the kick and the bass aren't really interacting much in this case, then it actually sounds okay. I think that just kind of settles my point. Like, I'm totally fine using a gate for the most part. Now, I do want to try, where's it at? Oh, Pro G. I want to try Pro G, because I've not owned this long enough to really implement it in terms of its gating, like its sidechain function. So this one will be kind of interesting. So if we have here an input to the kick, we need now to... Right now, it's...
switch it over to ducking mode.
Ducking mode, yeah, it's exactly opposite what I thought. So here, let's go full. Now let's set up the same settings here, at least close to it. Or actually, let's just try to get this feeling right, and then we'll kind of go from there. And instantly, I think that feels pretty good. I think that works. Yeah, I really don't have a problem with that. Infinite to 1. That's why. It wasn't a super strong... Yeah, I think that sounds mighty fine. I don't really have any problem with that at all. So let's go here. And let's figure out that. So... Oh, did Event Horizons leave? Gus, Trauma?
Yeah, looks like he's gone.
Oh, I guess his phone died.
Maybe his computer crashed. Or
Yeah.
Fucking tornadoes, dude.
Yeah, I'm
Wait,
really
is he going
glad
through a tornado? Jeez.
No, not up north. He's
No.
up north. Oh, now this is cool. Check that out. We've nailed the beginning. That is perfect. And then like right here at the end, that's where it starts to fade off. Like that makes a little bit of sense. It feels pretty good. So, okay. Now, next thing to test is getting that tighter. But that's kind of the weird thing about doing this sort of stuff is that like when you have it tight, it won't sound like a sidechain at that point. It's just going to be a duck. So it's just going to sound like the two are happening exactly at the same time without any kind of like pumping or rhythmic stuff going on. Yeah, that's pretty. It's about as good as you need. Okay, so let's copy that one and test it. Yep. Freeze it. I wish there was a shortcut to freeze. That would be kind of useful. Yeah, check that out. That seems fairly reasonable. That actually might even be more accurate than the I mean, that's obviously more accurate than the Ableton Gate, but like accurate to the point where that actually might be almost ideal. Yeah. Huh.
Like it's treating every frequency.
Yeah, like it's got
differently.
that same kind of tail off, like kind of like the kick does. The kick still has a little slight bit of body to it. That's actually really, really interesting. So I've learned that I can trust Pro G. So that's cool. Hopefully somebody else has learned something aside from me here. What have we any more questions? Otherwise, I'm gonna have to hop off. But anybody have any more questions about anything?
No, I'm just happy to hang out.
Me too. Let's keep hanging out. I'll keep hanging out for a bit.
Oh no, it's just good to hang out. Actually, I'm doing like 5 things at once right now.
Ah, right on.
But yeah, thank you. See you, Charm War.
See ya. Bye.
Bye. So here, let's go here. Sounds fine. Now I do want to get it faster, so I do want to give it a little look ahead. Now with Pro G, does its look ahead affect its release? Because that would be interesting to know. Because that's kind of what I care about. Oh, there he is. He's back. He's back.
We got lonely without you, mister.
Hey, I'm sorry. My like I don't know what's going on, but my router just like kicked me off and I had to reboot it.
Oh.
I'm having like issue. Yeah, the brand new freaking 4-figure router system that I splurged on is not so spectacular. It's amazing when it works, but it's like constantly, probably about once a day, it just boots me off, and you know
Huh.
I got to figure it out. So
Oh,
That's what-
unfortunate. Unfortunate. Well, we've learned some pretty interesting stuff, mostly related to the fact that I think I can trust. I think I am gonna be able to trust Pro G.
Yeah.
They're fantastic.
I was gonna try. What I was gonna try to do is, I was gonna make like a device with it,
Yeah.
and then like a rack just with the gate.
Yeah.
And then what I like to do is use the little notes, like the info box on the side, and kind of
over here.
explain, because like if you were to use that gate, like for somebody new who gets the rack, some of the functions might not be apparent, and you only get like basically a tweet's worth of characters. But I think that you can kind of put some info in there that would direct somebody how to use it. And I do that just for myself because I make a lot of racks and then forget how to use it or even what it was later on, and it just helps me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely advantageous to take advantage of this whole thing over here, this little Windows thing. I mean, I don't know that people use it to its fullest extent. What's weird about it is that every single thing here, if you go to, every single thing that's highlighted has with it a the ability to have info put onto it.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy. Like that's really interesting. Yeah, practically everything that you can highlight, and even more so, has the ability to put notes to it. So it kind of gets interesting. Like I always do it in the header of my instruments. So if I have an instrument and it's pretty intricate, then I'll put notes about it up here. And I will also do that sometimes on, I think, well, yeah, it kind of depends on the group, but it's usually on the rack. Or like if I macro anything, if I have it set up so that one macro is free, I'll put like info here or something like that. And so you hover over this macro and then it'll tell you everything you need.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So you can edit each individual macro then?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you go edit info text, I'll be like blah. And then over here,
Dude, I
didn't
here even have a clue about that.
Yeah. So you can have, so like edit info here has nonsense, and then macro 3 can have, actually it's just in between, just to the left of it. It's weird. Yeah, right there.
Oh man.
Yeah. So you can have every one of them independent. That's why I think it's confusing and people don't use it to its fullest ability or its fullest extent, is because there's so many places you can put notes. It's kind of like hard to keep up with, the most logical place I can think of is like up here and on the name, and like up here on the device itself. Those are places I always try to put notes if it's something elaborate.
Yeah, there's some Max for Live notepads, but
I have one. I think I made one. That's actually one of the best. That's actually one of the best kind of like intro projects you can do for Max for Live is making a notepad. Oh, I don't have it on this computer. Yeah, just a little basic Max for Live notepad. Those are really, really helpful.
Yeah. Do we have the ability to upload files in the server yet?
I think you do. Anything in the stew, like you have admin ability in the stew.
Because I've been kind of like going through and remaking a lot of the approach devices, like for Ableton Live, and
yeah,
cleaning them up and kind of doing my own thing with it, trying to get like naming conventions
yeah,
a little bit more secure, and what I was planning on doing is finishing those and then just putting them in there, for other people to use.
That would be great. If you want to, go for it. I'm 99% sure you have the ability, and if you don't, we can look at how you can do that. At the very least, a Dropbox link is totally a thing. So yeah, absolutely. Please do that. If you're willing, go for it. That would be very, very cool.
Yeah, it's like one of the ways that I've been able to store my information because like we've learned so many concepts in the last 14 months. Like it can make
Yeah.
your head spin,
It
and
definitely can. Yeah.
I don't always have time to go searching through the giant library of videos to try to find something that's like, oh, I think there was something about that, so
Right.
like making
Right.
racks has kind of been my go-to, because the way I look at it, if I can't describe it in the small info text box, then it's too complicated.
Sure. Yeah. That seems to be a pretty decent outlook on it. I mean, at the very least, if you can't describe it with multiple boxes and multiple layers of
Right.
notes, then it's like, kind of what's the point, There's some of my base patches that I have like notes inside the text name, like inside the name of it itself. Like here, don't forget the LFO. There's things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, and some of these are very interesting as far as how they're actually designed, and some of them do have notes, and yeah, notepads are always kind of important.
Did you ever go through and mess around with that crazy drum rack anymore?
No, I have decided against it. I have decided that is not an advantageous pursuit. I am going to, because of the fact that I don't have a singular sample library in one location. I have it, it's all in my Dropbox, but I don't have all of that. Like I have like 600 gigs of samples and in various locations too. So like multiple folders on Dropbox. I basically, in Dropbox, I've got multiple folders, each representing a different computer. So,
Right.
I may want samples of one type on one computer and then one type of another. And I started it that way unintentionally, intentionally. And now I'm realizing that that's not exactly what I need to have happen. So I am sort of combining old data with new data and trying to like merge old folder structure with new folder structure. And it's a little elaborate, but it's definitely something that is taking time, but I feel like it'll be pretty cool to have it. I've recently, and you actually made me look up Samplism. That's one
Yeah.
of the things you use, right? Samplism.
Yeah, and I don't use I'm not a power user of it. Like I
Okay.
just like it because you can load a sample library in there, and let's say
Mhm.
there's 1,000 drum hits. You can
Yeah.
flip through and listen to the drum hits as fast as you can tap the arrow key.
Sort of like
you know?
like how Ableton does it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that.
Because like I don't like if you were to just use Finder, then you gotta like double click on all of them, then it opens up in a third part. It takes forever.
I've never enjoyed Finder in that way.
And I know
Here,
there's other apps, but
-12.
yeah, I like Samplism. The only thing I don't like about it, if somebody who's listening here, at least it's been a persistent bug on my system, if you leave Samplism up for, I don't know, until your computer like will go to sleep, or like a half hour or something, it puts out this like ear piercing high pitched squeal and
Oh,
just
what?
sits there like, yeah. So normally I have it on my headphones, and
Yeah.
I'll be like chilling, and then all of a sudden I hear this really high pitched loud like squeal
a
that
problem.
is so high in frequency you can barely hear it. And I'm like, oh, I left Samplism on, and then I gotta go turn it off, or like close the program.
That
That's
sounds
like the
like
only thing I
bad
don't like about
programming.
it.
That's a
Yeah.
very big problem. It could
Yeah.
potentially deafen people.
Oh, I know. I mean, if you left it on like a big main system, I mean, it would just be outrageous. So it's only a problem, like I said, if you leave it there for a long time.
Yeah.
And then the other issue is like they have, like a little waveform thing.
Mhm.
And what I've found that'll happen is if let's say that you want to like you have a loop, and let's say you want to like punch in somewhere, so you double click on a point,
Mhm.
sometimes it'll make like a tiny loop brace at that point instead of punching you in there, and then you're just stuck with this little microscopic loop, and then you literally have to choose another sample and then go back to it. And
That's
I'm
kind of
sure
how
there's some
Logic
key
does for me
command.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Logic does that. There's a
but
glitch like that in Logic, or at least old Logic. I don't know about new Logic.
It's like when you're trying to be fast, you know, like you got 600 gigs, right? So if you want to
Yeah.
listen to all 600
Yeah.
gigs,
Pop, pop,
you
pop,
need to
pop,
be
pop, pop, pop.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's just like, it's just tough. You
It
know,
can be.
those are the two things that hang me up with that program. But like otherwise, you know, it's not so bad.
Yeah, actually, I want to. I think I'm going to buy it probably this week. And I know you have it, the XLN-XO.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
really like it.
that is
It's
something on my
amazing
list.
because you can put beats, you can sequence a beat either in XO or in MIDI, and then you could just hit these dice buttons and just it'll put like these insane, like you think that, oh, it's just a simple drum beat, and then all of a sudden you like catch on to just the right combination of samples. And
Yeah.
it's like, man, that sounds dope, you know?
Yeah, and doesn't it
And
come with a bunch of sample like a big
yeah.
sample library of its own?
Oh yeah, yeah. It comes with a huge, I mean, you really don't even need to import your own. But I mean, you know, I have a pretty fast computer. I don't know
Yeah.
how it would be for somebody
There you
on
go.
like a slower system,
Yeah.
but I have a pretty fast
8,000
computer.
drums.
Yeah, and I have 450 gigabytes of samples loaded into the like the XO space, and it doesn't skip a step.
You have 400 gigs loaded into a single sampler.
Yeah,
Shoot,
and
that's
then
crazy cool.
what so like the only thing is you get that problem where the XO is like feeding out, but XO is unique, right? And I wanted to make a video about this. It's unique because you can send audio out both to the bus and the master channel at the same time. So I made a rack that basically,
What do
because
you mean
like
to the
other
bus and the
apps,
master at the same time?
yeah, so like other apps you have to choose. Like I was using I also, another app that I like that's called Drum Computer by Sugar Bytes, and you only get buses, and then you have to choose the buses, but it's like, what if you want to have like the flexibility of having like the whole bus coming out and then like the single channels if you want them, and EXO allows you to do that. I like that
Interesting.
plugin too. It's all, you know, synthesized drums, and it's the same kind of thing. You just hit the dice kit while you have a sequence playing, and it just like it's like a mud pie generator, you know, like for
That
drums or for whatever. And you
Yeah, that
just keep
actually reminds me of Prism. Do you know about Prism?
by
Native
who?
Instruments?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I don't think I have it installed on this machine. No, I don't. Yeah, Prism is one of those kind of like that. It's got a lot of really interesting sounds in it. It's got dice, you know, you shake it, you know, it does a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff. Actually, that's one of the cool things about this synth here that I like quite a bit. The Arturia Micro Freak is it's got
Yeah.
little can't hardly see it here, but it's got like a dice and a chili pepper as a button, and you're
Oh,
like, what do those
nice.
do? And it's for the arpeggiator. It's got like chord generators and all kinds of stuff, and so you'll hit a chord, and it's got, so when you hit those buttons, you've got, you know, a touch strip on it, and so if you can see, I'm not sure if you're watching the stream or not, like the video stream, but basically it will reorder or randomize the chord that you've played into it, or the arpeggiation that's already set up to play. So it will randomize all that, and I've always loved that concept of just kind of take something and just randomize, just throw it up, you know, like pick something random. I like that.
I do too.
Yeah.
Like there's some people, I don't know, maybe somebody would say, "Oh, that's cheating." And it's like, well, I mean, I don't know. I like it if you're depending on that for a crutch, then whatever. But I mean, like I pulled for some reason like that drum computer. I had it with a drum beat and an acid line playing at the same time, and it was like you hit the dice and I got like 15 different iterations recorded of 8-bar loop in like 3 minutes, and then that's like enough to checkerboard out like a whole track.
Yeah, exactly. And if the drum samples that it comes with are good, and they probably are, and they're probably like really well balanced, you know, universally in the system, you could probably just swap out sounds like crazy, and they're all gonna work together for the most part, probably.
Right.
That's pretty neat. I like that quite a bit. I like the idea of just having anything that is analyzing the waveforms and giving you similarity. I like that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I like the sound of a snare and I'm like, okay, I want one like this, but more, you know, I don't know, pick a word. And so that's what I really am attracted to about that software. Now, do you use it often? Do you find it useful? And do you find its sample libraries as one that like you could get away with just on its own?
I probably could, but then it depends on like what type of music you're making, because like when you're
That's true.
randomizing stuff, it's kind of more like left field type beats. So
Yeah. Do you let me go back here to that. How large is the download? The entire thing?
I'll have to go into my project and check it out. But I like it, and also it's on iPad. So I have it both for iPad, for iOS, and and the DAW. So like I can mess with it on my iPad and then just record it from my iPad into my computer, like so I
Yeah.
don't have to have it in front of me.
Really,
But
really
yeah,
nice.
EXO, I mean, it's really pretty deep. There's a lot of stuff, but like I said, the busing is nice because like I just made I got one of the reason why you asked if I use it a lot, and I tried to when I got it, and one of the reasons why I didn't was because you have to like set it up like you do battery,
Yeah.
because I don't want like the full drums coming out of it. I want them in each their own channel. Oh,
Yeah.
you got kind of a nice price. That's on sale. It's never been
Oh,
that
wow.
low.
That's cool. I might grab that pretty soon.
Yeah. So you can like I made what would it be? Not an ALC.
Mhm.
Maybe it's an ALC, but like I dragged like the whole channel strip out into a folder, and I've been doing that with my multi-channel instruments so that if I want to use them, um they're just ready to go. You just drag it in and you've got all the mapping done and all the routing and everything, and, like, you don't have to sit there and mess around with it every time.
Wow. So you've got like a multi-output setup already for it.
Yeah, inside of a group, like a grouped multi-output.
Yeah.
So I'll have EXO, and EXO is playing on its own channel, and then that also has a master out, but then I'll have each of the 8 buses on their own channel, and then inside of it, I think a lot of people realize that you can drag an entire live ALS
Song.
file into another one,
It's a
like
really great system, and that's
Yeah.
that's actually why I have a YouTube video on this on my channel. I have my own channel, and it's Element One. I think it's like Element One Music or Element One Sound. If anybody's
Yeah, I followed
interested.
you the last time. I'll check it
Oh,
out.
sweet. Yeah. They basically have a video on that exact thing, but more so about how you can kind of export these returns. How you can set up send and returns to actually save them for use in other sessions, because you can't do
Oh,
that.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So, like, for example, if let's just grab some basic. Let's grab. There it is. I'm not familiar with these symbols. I usually don't have this tiny, but I'm pretty happy with these results here, so I'm confident deleting this. So yeah, if you have, let's just grab again basic kick, hat, and snare. Yeah, just random junk beats. I'm just trying to like get something down to illustrate the point. This is gonna sound like garbage, but it's gonna be funny. Yeah. Oh. There you go. Garbage beat. Yeah, so like let's say you wanted to add I don't know, let's go ahead and label these before we get too far along. I'll go here. Let's see. It's kick, hat, snare. So red, green, and blue. All right, so let's say you want to add reverb to your snare. And you thinking about using a return. That's kind of cool, but you're also like, okay, well, I want to save it for later, or you have some other desire in mind. Well, what you can do is make a audio track, group it. This is going to be called reverb aux. This is going to be called snare. And what you can do is have this audio channel just listen to the snare. Set it to input, and now your fader is the send control, and you just put your reverb directly onto the group at 100% wet. So you're allowing some of the sound from this channel here to go into the group. And so in this way, you have the exact same system as a send and return system. It's just now you can just grab that entire group and save it in a browser. So
Okay.
Yeah. And this has some added benefits as well. Like you can pan the send. You can polarity invert the
Oh
send.
my gosh.
You can delay the send. So you can have one reverb with multiple pre-delays. So you can have like the snare, let's say with track delay, you can delay the snare by like, I don't know, 50 milliseconds or something. And so and then let's say you wanted to add the hi-hat to that same reverb. So new track. It's a little more laborious to set up, but it's still really advantageous because of the fact that you can save it and you can do other things with it. So there it is. So
I didn't think about grouping the actual aux channel and then having
Yeah.
multiple things coming in underneath. Like
Yeah.
I messed around with kind of that type of thing, kind of when the Skrillex busing template came out, because like I was using returns, but I don't like returns because they go right to the master, and
yeah,
sometimes
you can make
that's
them not. You can make them not,
Yeah,
but it's
right.
still a little clunky because they're isolated. Now, if they have it set up in like an update to Live 11 where you can just drag the returns around, then that would be, a big win. Until then, you
Right.
can still do this and have an interesting system here, like delay. Let's use a chorus. Use a chorus. There you go. You can see a little better. So yeah, like you've got input from hat. So like you can like compress the chorus. You can make the chorus bigger. There's a lot of, and obviously this is a really dinky beat, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
You can save these though, so it's like, oh, I really love that effects chain. And then what's also cool is you're not limited in them. You can literally have as many send channels as you can possibly imagine. You can even have like combined send effects. Like you can have a bunch of different stuff happening. It gets kind of crazy. Like you can have an entire group dedicated to just vocal processing. And then you're like, okay, cool. I like that processing we did on that last song. Let's go for the put the same process on this song. Highlight, drag, drop, save, that's it. It's that easy. So
Yeah.
this is my method, and I don't know anybody else that has taught this, so I will claim it. It's not I'm not the first
Yeah,
one
for
probably,
sure.
but nobody else is really teaching it, so I will claim it. If anybody asks, tell them I did it first.
Absolutely, man.
But it's really
that's dope.
really handy, and it's also it's delay compensated too, so you don't have to
Well,
worry
that's what I was
about
gonna
things
ask
being kind
you.
of out of whack.
Well, that's the one thing I was gonna ask you is like
Let's
I know
confirm
that
it.
when you're recording outboard synths and then you have the monitor in on, doesn't that mess up the delay compensation?
If you're recording, it will, but if you're just monitoring input, it won't.
Right.
I don't think. And I'd like to confirm that. Let's actually confirm it. Make sure that that's not messing anybody up. So let's put this Dirac spike here. This will be our our universal test sound here. Let's go there. Okay. So let's turn off this reverb and let's just add a new return, quote unquote, kick, quote unquote, from the kick track input. And now, technically, these should happen at the exact same time. And they do. If they didn't, it would sound like this. See?
Yeah.
So they are bit MNF and perfect. Ooh.
That's good. That's good to know.
That is so good. Yeah. So
I think
so now if we, do a reverb here. And then pre-delay, right? So this is the best method as far as I know of.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of the only.
I'm not opposed to using buses or using like channels as buses and stuff like that, like
Yeah.
and not I saw that like the whole Skrillex thing and it was just like I immediately knew that that was just one singular interpretation of the whole concept.
Yeah, very much so. There's not really anything. I mean, it has a lot of benefits. Like, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie, it has a lot of benefits. It's just that most people don't know why they're having to do that. That's the main problem I have with it, is that people saw Skrillex do it, and therefore they do it, and it's monkey see, monkey do, without fully understanding the why. And like here, I've even got that exact, what would I call it? Submix right here. Submix group template. Like, that's exactly what this is. You've got, but this is, I'm not using his dumb terminology, no offense, of his dumb terminology of like, hype bus, a basic chain or whatever. Screw all that. Like, fuck that. I don't care. I just want like to know what goes to those instruments or what goes to that bus. And it became really clear after I rewatched and rewatched and rewatched. This is what I had figured out. It was like, he's got subs separate from music, compression happening on each. Both of those go to a melodic bus where there's compression happening there. That entire thing is knocked out of the way by the drums, and the effects are processed here. Or the effects go straight up to the pre-master, some of them, and the drums get compressed a little bit. And then you got the whole damn pre-master as separate from the vocal bus. And so that all gets compressed. It's like at the pre-master stage. So it's like, that's it. And it's genius, but it's just multi-bussing. It's just multiple buses. But I think it's just the language around it that either like sold it or confused people both at the same time. The hype bus, the basic chain, the hype chain, the whatever. It's just, this is what he's doing. So yeah, good stuff. I actually got to jump.
For sure.
Unless anybody has any questions. Yeah, it's getting late for me. And on the East Coast, I'm sure everybody else is probably tired too.
Same here.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, hey, this has been fantastic. Thank you all so flipping much for
Yeah,
hanging out
thank
with me.
you.
If you have any questions, hit me up as always, and I will see you all on the next one.
Okay, sounds good.
Take care.
Bye bye.